Alright, so it's been a long time since I've done any content for this channel. And so what I want to do with this video is just give an update on everything that's been going on. And basically I've had a lot of health stuff happening. And then I'm going to talk about the channel as a whole. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about going forward and maybe what to expect, which hopefully shouldn't be too different from how I've been doing things before. But to get started, basically, last year what happened was I had a stroke. And I've been dealing with that and then all sorts of stuff surrounding that. So just to start off with the story, what happened was I was exercising and I was doing some really light curls. So I was doing some 10-pound drop set curls. So I was at the end of my set and my arms were really, really tired. And I was at the point where, I'm just not able to do anything anymore. So what happened was, so when you get like really, really tired, you kind of start to shake a little bit. So my arm was shaking a little bit. And but then it was more than shaking. It was kind of like twitching and bouncing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I'm thinking like, okay, did I get enough water? Have I had enough salt? Stuff like that. I'm thinking, nerves, electrolytes, things like that. And so I'm like, okay. So I just stop and I just lay down for a minute. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to rest and kind of collect my wits. And so I'm just laying down for a minute, trying to be calm. And I stand up and I can't move my arm at all. So it had gone from bouncing to just being completely, utterly unresponsive. And at this point I'm like, okay, that's more serious. That's something else is going on. Something's probably going on. Maybe it's not serious, but anyway. So I could still feel touch. I could feel everything, but I just couldn't move my arm. And what it was, the sensation was like in my head. So when you're like looking in the mirror and you're like moving your face, and you move something in a certain way, you move a muscle, and then a second later you can't figure out how you moved it again. It was like I couldn't figure out how to move my arm anymore. It was like the button that I'm pushing in my head to say move arm was lost or was gone or something. It was as if I didn't know where to direct my mental effort in order to move my arm. So I couldn't even try harder to move my arm because there was nowhere to apply that effort to. It was pretty weird, but anyway, so my arm's just not responding at all. And my first thought was Harry Potter. When so Harry breaks his arm from the bludger in book 2, and Lockhart shows up and accidentally vanishes all the bones in Harry's arm, and he describes how it's hanging limply and uselessly at his side like a thick rubber glove or something.
Poking out of the end of his robes was what looked like a thick flesh-coloured rubber glove. He tried to move his fingers. Nothing happened. Madame Pomfrey wasn't at all pleased. "You should have come straight to me," she raged, holding up the sad, limp reminder of what half an hour before had been a working arm. It took a while to stuff the rubbery, boneless arm into a sleeve.
So that's kind of what it felt like for me, because I had no control of my arm, and so in order to walk and not have it swinging on its own, I was holding it like this just so that it... Anyway, so I walk over to my buddy who was there and was like, hey, we need to go right now. I can't move my arms. We head off. Luckily we're really close to the ER. And by the time we're getting anywhere in the car, I'm starting to be able to move my hand again, like just a little bit. And by the time we get to the ER and I'm admitted, I'm able to do really slow motions. So already things are seeming better in my arm, but at the same time, my face right here was starting to go numb. And when my face started to go numb, that's when I was like, okay, where is your hand and your face connected anywhere other than your brain? It's a stroke. So we're going to the ER. It's a stroke. My hand regains full strength in like 24 hours, and my sensation on my face comes back in like a week, except for just really weird stray feeling on my tooth that would sometimes pop up. Anyway, so that was the experience, and it was a whole thing. The stroke ended up being 2 tiny little clots. I think the area of damaged tissue is about the size of the head of a pin. So really small, but also a kind of a big deal. So surrounding this whole thing, there's been other stuff going on. So a few years prior to all this, we learned that my family has this defective gene that causes heart problems. So to explain this gene really fast, what it does, it encodes for a protein in the nuclear membrane of the cell. So around the nucleus to enclose the DNA, and so it's a defect that's in basically every cell in the body that has a nucleus, and maybe, anyway, it's got huge far-reaching effects potentially, and but the effect that we really care about is the effect on the heart. It affects, I think, all muscles, and it has metabolic effects, and your heart's a really important muscle, and apparently also affects the blood. But this is particularly important because apparently this defect also increases stroke risk by like 5 times. So it's a main root factor in all this. In addition to that, in response to this heart thing, there's a lot going on here. I also have a pacemaker. I had a pacemaker put in. And let's show you that right now. All right, so here's the pacemaker. You can see the scar there. And there's the pacemaker. It's got a defibrillator. And that's the main thing I need is a defibrillator, because with this defect, there's a risk for sudden cardiac death. So I've been going to, anyway. But yeah, pacemaker, it's kind of cool. It's plastic sounding. And when they interrogate it and put a thing over it, it starts beeping. And that's really bizarre to have beeping coming from inside your chest. But here's something really gross. I can twist it out like that and stick my fingers behind it. People don't like that, but I think it's kind of fun. And then it's got, I think these are leads. Anyway, so this comes in, this goes into the clavicle vein and then into the heart. And so this was a response to the heart gene, which causes an increased risk of stroke. And I think both of them might have had a factor in stroke. And in addition, an additional factor was another defect I've got, which is a heart defect, which is the PFO. PFO is a hole between the chambers of the heart. Everyone's born with a PFO, but when you start breathing air, the pressure in the chamber of your heart forces it closed, and then it heals closed. Except for that doesn't always happen. So I have this hole, the PFO in my heart, and that allows blood to bypass the lungs, essentially. So normally, if you get tiny blood clots from stuff, what happens is the blood goes to, is pumped through the heart into the lungs, and in the lungs, it gets stopped, doesn't make it through those capillaries, and then fresh blood from the lungs goes to the heart, and then it's pumped to the rest of your body. So with the PFO, what can happen is some blood can shunt, bypass the lungs, and go straight to the brain. And that's probably a factor to what happened too. So after the stroke, so these are things I had done. I had to get the pacemaker, I had the stroke, and then I had the PFO fixed. And here's the x-ray I've got. I'll probably just put an image of it, but you can see you got the pacemaker, and you can see the leads, and you can see, you can even see the little thing they put in there. It's like an umbrella thingy that closes the hole in the PFO so that all that's taken care of. So basically, long story short, I've been dealing with a lot. And so that's the primary reason why I've been focusing less on the channel. And it's also a fact of me focusing less just on making stuff in general. So that's what's been happening. So now I would like to talk a little bit about the channel itself. So I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, ever brought it up, but the whole way that the channel started was just kind of an archival thing for me and Riley to reference our own projects. So we wanted to be able to look back at what we've done whenever we start making something new. So recently, when my last set of videos, I was making mountain board stuff. So the first thing I did when I started going to mountain board stuff is I go back and watch some of my old mountain board videos and like, okay, here's what we were doing, here's what we tried, here's where we talked about what we were going to do next when it was still fresh in our minds. So that's the sort of stuff that the channel is originally about. And it was kind of just incidental that it ended up getting subscribers, and then it became a thing that we enjoyed doing as making content or whatever. But its real base function is still to document and be an archive of what we've been doing. And because of that, I don't think, no matter what's going on, I don't think I'm ever going to stop making videos. Because at this point, I've been doing it so long, it's making the video is part of my creative and my thinking process, along with everything else I'm doing for the project. So as long as I'm making something, chances are videos are going to keep coming, and the only way I'm going to quit making videos is if I quit making stuff. So making stuff just has not happened a lot, and so videos haven't happened a lot. So in addition to just making less videos because I'm caught up in all this stuff that's going on, there's also been a bit of a shift in kind of life focus sort of things. But I'm still would like to get to a point again where I'm making videos more often. We'll just have to see how that ends up. But about a video a month is what I like to see, personally, from my side of things. That's not even necessarily a goal. That's just a statement about what I've become comfortable with and what's rewarding for me if I can achieve it. But I don't know what's going to happen exactly. But I do know, like I said before, as long as I'm making stuff, there's a really good chance that videos are still going to happen. But even if they don't, I actually have a big backlog of videos of old projects that I've been kind of saving up. And they're about to the point where I can start releasing them as well. So, from about this point on, I'm hoping to be able to start rolling out some of those old projects to maybe help fill in any lack of activity that I might have on anything current. So that's where things are at. hopefully some exciting stuff happens soon, but it's a lot of things are up in the air and indeterminate. And hopefully you thought that that was an interesting and entertaining story. It was certainly an interesting and entertaining experience. And also, at the same time, a little bit of an exhausting and boring experience at times as well. But there we go. That is the update. So hopefully I can move from health stuff back to longboard stuff, and I'll be back soon. But we'll see how it goes. Longboard technology, over and out.